This, good readers, is my Yes Optimistic. I got this 51 and I'm so stoked. We only ask for favorites, and I was lucky enough to get this because it is just a great, short, fat, kind of surfy. You know, that's the category. We're kind of lumping them all together because they're just, all three of those boards are kind of like a massive departure from like your traditional freeride board like you'd see with the Yes Pick Your Line. Very apples to oranges. Get lots of questions with readers asking, what should I get? Well, it really depends. This is short, fat, fun, super carvy, and now this year, way more camber. I only got to demo the 57, and that was way too much board for me. So probably one of the last boards I'd want to ride in a tight situation, because even though it has a really deep side cut, I just can't like roll edge to edge quickly with my size 9 boots. I just couldn't muscle that through bumps really easily or hammer through like a tree line. I'd much rather be on the Pick Your Line for that. Even the 51 here versus my 59 Pick Your Line, I would take the 59 Pick Your Line through bumps every day. However, in a bank slalom, this might be really fun because once this is set on edge, it turns a tighter radius than the Pick Your Line and many other boards out there. But it just doesn't transition quickly. So, you know, so some people might say this turns super fast, and what they mean by that is when they get it on edge, it just accelerates and just turns this really tight circle. But when we say turn initiation, we're just talking about slapping it from edge to edge, back and forth, like weaving in and out of a tree line or going through a tight spot in a chute. And you have to make tight, quick turns. I'd much rather be on the Pick Your Line. But then when it comes to groomers, a little more wide open space and just laying out carves, look at this camber profile. It's mostly camber. It's so much more camber, this production model, than the demo I tried. Camber changes from board to board. The way the boards cure, they're not all the same. But you can see there's just a touch of early rise. They call this modern camber, and kind of like, you know, they're like, it's kind of like maybe the nose is a little longer or maybe there's a little early rise, but it's just like, it kind of reminds me of so many boards now that are just giving you like a little touch of like rocker in the nose. It looks like maybe this much, you know, is coming up before the nose. Then on top of that, they added 6 inserts instead of 5. And a reader, I forget your name, I'm sorry, I'm getting like too many emails a day, but I just wanted to reference you. You brought it up. You told me they added an extra insert, and I didn't catch that during the demo, during my demo, to compensate for the extra camber. So it's almost the same in powder. It's still like, there's a good bit of taper, you can see. There's just a shit ton of volume in this big nose and just almost no tail. So while it's centered on side cut, there's so much more back on board. Now, let's do some measurements here. And I've also learned something from another reader about math, which I know nothing about. I'm horrible at math. But, you know, just going off reference stance, the 51 is about 21. You know, you can go as wide as 23.5, which is pretty wide for a 51, with regular discs. Now, if you set it all the way back, you're looking at 21.2. Now, the difference between the nose to here, you know, the last part of the binding, and the tail to here is this. Just about 23 3/4. And from this pointy tail, so it actually, you know, this tail's going to sink more than a lot of other tails that are like this or like this. So maybe it's even more so set back on board. But you're looking at 14.5. So that's, is that right? 14.25. So that's 9.5 back on board. Then divide that by 2. I'd never do that. And an engineer emailed me, thank you, and told me you need to divide that by 2. So now you're looking at 4.75 back from the center of the board, which is like right about here. So call it what you want. The difference between, you know, nose and tail of 9.5 back on board, or, you know, back from center 4.75. So that's really far back in comparison to them saying, you know, centered on side cut. So, you know, to me, always the indicator is how far back on board is really kind of like often what makes you float, not the setback on side cut. That just kind of changes the way it turns. You can see this base is just nice and clean. Not a fan of die cut, but love that the rest of this is just black. And look how deep this side cut is. There's so much side cut going on here. And then you've got underbite. So it provides a little more grip. You can see this indentation kind of coming down. So it kind of indents in and comes back to the side cut. And so that grips in 2 places and provides a little faster turn initiation as well. This is a great hard snowboard, and it doesn't grab as much as the full-on mag does. So anyways, this is just an amazing board. It's just all about just really laying over and just laying it out as hard as you can. This works great with my specs, my size 9 boots, and it's such an aggressive board. I even like being a little heavier than the recommended weight. That's fine for me. This board is just so girthy. My friend and I were joking, shout out to Juan. We were like, yeah, this 51 seems like it's not spec for 180 pounds. It's like 150 to 220. It just feels like it's just so much board. So there you have it.